This mini symposium aims to showcase the climate tools developed by the Ministry of General Affairs and the Ministry of ROMI, and to bring together policy teams, stakeholders, to collaborate on policies that advance climate action.
Today, the room is actually filled with persons that are involved, internal or external, I think, in some form by, for example, policy making or partnership with government concerning this ongoing discussion on the topic of climate change. The policy platform I think was created as a means to bridge gaps between policymakers. The problem that we see in daily life is always that everybody has brilliant ideas about what would be great to put on paper to follow on, but at the end of the day, everybody is on their own internal worlds documenting. But what we miss is actually a cohesion of the brilliant mind's ideas to, in a way, put it to a coherent totality that you can give follow-up efficiently to serve humankind with. That is always, again, the problem by those that make policy. They have great ideas, and then they get frustrated because their ideas are just stated on paper. And that no one is actually giving follow-up to all the time that they have invested in thinking about policies can make life easier for everybody. So I think this policy platform is a good way to try to link the islands together to make it a more efficient totality. It is a way not only to exchange, but moreover to work in a more harmonious, efficient, as I said, and a more impactful way. This platform allows policy workers across ministries, stakeholders such as NGOs, and implementing partners to come together to address challenges, exchange ideas, and most of all to ensure that government is not working in isolation nor in silos, as I just said. As we move forward, these sessions will continue. An overview will be made of all ongoing initiatives and interventions. This allows for government to do better planning as well as promote a joint approach. Given our capacity and also, of course, our always hunting financial constraints, this is, I think, a way still for us to make what we have more efficient and impactful for our community. Another intervention is a recently started Managers Policy Departments meeting. The objective of such meeting is to provide managers with the opportunity to have collective input, but also to connect with each other. At the end of the day, it's one government, and we can only do this as a team. This is why these sessions have been reinstated with this survey at first. Once more, I would like to thank you for being here this morning. We have to be careful though, and it's always give a take-home message. At a certain moment, I have realized since I'm Prime Minister that we have been using words as resiliency and sustainability and climate impact and climate change. At some moment it becomes a trend that everybody uses. And at a certain moment, policymakers will have to think really about if we are talking of climate change, to stay in the mood of the trend. At the end of the day, it's very important for us to ask ourselves, if we are talking of climate change, what is actually the impact specifically for St. Martin? Well, how can I fine-tune my policy that it really makes a difference if we are talking of climate change? Climate change for me is very weak. At the end of the day, I think climate change has to do with change of temperature, has to do with threat of water and the threat of wind. It's always about water, winds, and temperatures. How can we mitigate the consequences of fluctuations in water levels, wind and temperature in a way that be kept harmless through those confrontational moments. So I ask you all, please, when you're busy with policies, don't stay too general in your statements, but try to tweak it in a way that it really makes an impact on the individuals in our community. Once more, thank you for your attention, for your time, and for your engagement to be here this morning. Thank you very much.
In baseball, if you are the batter, you will keep your eye on the pitcher. You will see him wind his body up before he hurls the ball. Then, you swing the bat with all your might and hopefully run. It is hurricane season, and even after the unusually thick coat of Sahara dust in the atmosphere, Denzel did not keep his eye on the Atlantic Ocean. That was his parents' job. As he slouched in geography class, the music in his left earpod droned out Mr. Brandon's attempt to pique their interest. Denzel rubbed the sore calf muscle and stared across the room at Melissa, potential girlfriend material. But for now, the brains of the class. They grew up together in the same neighborhood, but he had recently moved. Denzel vaguely remembered Mr. Brandon saying something about 120 miles per hour winds and how they can rip the roof off of a house. He had said something about the speed of flying zinc and how it can cut someone's hand or head off. Unlike him, Melissa was busy turning her geography notebook into a color-coded masterpiece. She practically flung it across the room when she realized that the brown dot in the middle of the page was actually a baby calculator. The class erupted in laughter. Quiet down, quiet down. I hope you remember your test on hurricanes this Friday. Mr. Brandon shuffled his papers on his desk. Well, that tropical storm coming, he's better hurry up and eat our homework and that test, grumbled Denzel. The laughter resurrected again. 24 hours from now, he would not remember those jokey moments in geography class. 24 hours from now, he would never whisper to a soul in the classroom or on his baseball team that he, the strapping, semi-famous 15-year-old batter, would piss his pants in fear. That is the calm and carefree moment that he won't ever quite return to. Geography was the period before lunch break, the period before it started to rain. Thunder rumbled like a mini quake, startling the students into anxious dialogue. It rained on and off, well into the early afternoon. The rain settled in large pools across the campus grounds, where some boys had launched paper ships on the splashing surface, and other students with soaked cloth sneakers or plastic bag-covered shoes went to classes. Beyond the school walls, water had trickled down the surrounding hills into the valley, seeking the easy path of paved roads. Overflowing shallow roadside drains taking over L.D. Scott Road like a flood of students barging through the narrow school gate after the bell had rung. The ministry had announced, and school closed shortly after. The unrelenting traffic of parents and school buses followed. They swam upstream to pick up children from the grounds of old estates. Older students braved the gushing river that had once been L.B. Scott Road. Denzel held his jacket over Melissa's head. When Denzel waded into the water to walk Melissa to her school bus on the other side, he stepped into a pothole and went down into the cafe au lait water. Thankfully, Melissa was spared, and the snickering from across the river banks morphed into loud applause when Denzel popped up from his water baptism and bowed. A true pappy show, as his mother always says. He wiped the water off his face and got Melissa to her bus. Students huddled under the narrow shelters of the bus stops, watching. Some on the lookout for other failed river crossings, and others swiped through videos of different flooded neighborhoods, secretly wondering how they would get home. Denzel! Denzel! His mother screamed over the vindictive howls of Hurricane Irma. Her frantic Category 5 fury had locked them in a bedroom, the belly of a whale, a womb. Wake up, wake up, wake up, Denzel! But how could he when everything was pitch black? His ears popped, his head ached. How could you describe the loneliness of spiraling, pixelating clouds? How do you select words to capture the traveling worlds within those wicked winds? Something was trying to suck his brain through his ear hole, and that was the best description that he could come up with, the best description to share with his friends. A whole island seduced by a hurricane, hypnotized, skin-crawling shrieks from zinc roofs, paralyzed by scattering glass and gurgling toilet bowls. His mother was shaking him. Skittish and quivering, the LED lights from her flashlight jumped from the wall to the clothes closet in the corner, to the wastebasket on the floor, to the raving mad almond tree over their heads. Wait, what? Then he felt it, how soaked his t-shirt and pants already were. We must go, his mother said. Go where? Isn't this the same brand new house his father had said was hurricane-proof? The anger was inflating his tired limbs. He had spent a good portion of the evening holding the mattress against a compromised window and against the entitled winds. His dad had left them to wait out the storm elsewhere. No, 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 no. His mother scooted off the bed. It was suddenly eerily quiet. He ran after her, after the lunging light ahead of them. The roof was completely torn off. How had he slept through that? They climbed over debris, wiggled between parked cars, and jogged over to Miss Arlene's old traditional house, standing like a champion in a fight. The world must be coming to an end if his mother was seriously considering Miss Arlene for shelter, the crazy woman with all them cats. Sleep deprived, he jumped suddenly when something caught his eye and the wind began to groan and wake back up. He didn't see when his mother reached out and grabbed him, scraping his neck with her nails. Mr. Brandon's word came back to him crystal clear. Wind strong enough to cut your head off with zinc. He felt the scrape on his neck burn and grabbed his throat. The wind screamed. Miss Arlene opened the door and they scooted inside. He had already wet his pants, and both women looked at him when the smell filled the tiny living room. The eyes of cats appeared too. He found out that it was Miss Arlene's weird way of marking time, of acknowledging the storms that she had survived. Sandy, Matthew, Harvey. And he was certain, as they settled down in the kitchen, that she would name one of the kittens Irma. When curfew had lifted, he pedals his bike to Cahill to Melissa. The shantytown on the hillside is now a picturesque waterfall of personal items, wet cushions, the sequins red dress that Melissa had worn for her birthday last weekend, a scattered family of bent forks from Sunny Foods, a massive soup pot from Ochehu, cooks Goldwater every Friday, somebody's jacuzzi. The hurricane was a washing machine, scattering homes and trees after a spin cycle. The second rinse is coming. In his new neighborhood, he had seen the discarded shoes, food cans, electronics and papers, cracked dentures, and stunned ocean fish racing towards their final breath. A vicious display of show and tell. The once familiar path that he walked his bike through is now a mess of bald banana stalks, crude zinc sculptures, a jigsaw puzzle of debris, unshakable things shaken from their places. Sitting on the remains of her sitting on the remains of her front porch, Melissa is still postcard pretty. Behind her, the family's longtime home had been chewed down to only a concrete bedroom and bath. The ugly stumps of pink wall gave open into the once-upon-a-time living room like exposed gums. She didn't see him approaching. She tightens the bandana around her braids and skips through her notes. Her uniform shirts and skirt flap on the clothesline beside the house. She then leans down and circles something over and over in her notebook. He rests his bike against the uprooted tree and sighs at the sight in her lap. Her prized geography notebook in tatters.
Thank you all for being here. This room brings together policy advisors, technical experts, NGO leaders, the University of St. Martin, people whose work directly shapes the resilience and sustainability of our island. Your leadership, your expertise, and your commitment are essential to the future we are building together. As small islands, we know all too well that our impact on the global climate and climate change are negligible. But as small islands, this reality does not mean we need to sit back as passive participants of an ever-changing environment. In fact, as small islands, the impact of climate and climate change are most felt by us, and should therefore be our catalyst to find innovative solutions to spatial planning, development, and response. Today's symposium is more than a series of presentations. It's a collective moment, an opportunity to align our efforts, to strengthen intergovernmental cooperation, and to reaffirm that climate action on our island must be coordinated, data-driven, and most importantly, inclusive. Climate change touches every sector of society. It affects our infrastructure, our housing, our natural areas, our public health, and our economy. No single ministry, organization, or discipline can address these challenges alone. We must act together. As Minister of Spatial Planning, Housing, Environment, and Infrastructure, I see every day how interconnected our challenges are. The work of ROMI reaches into various spaces where we live and function: our roads, homes, coastlines, watersheds, and natural environments. And our responsibility is not only to build and regulate, but to safeguard. To ensure that no community is left more vulnerable and that every policy supports a safer and more resilient St. Martin. This morning, it is my honor to officially open this mini climate symposium, where several governmental climate initiatives will be presented. Among them is a project that marks a major step forward in our collective capacity to understand and address climate risk, the St. Martin Climate Impact Atlas. The Atlas was developed through the International Panel for Deltas and Coastal Areas, IPDC, with funding from the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management of the Netherlands. It was implemented through a partnership between Climate Adaptation Services, CAS, the Ministry of ROMI, and University of St. Martin, with contributions from many local stakeholders. What makes this atlas particularly significant is the breadth of collaboration behind it. It brings together data not only from the Dutch side of the island, but also the French side, ensuring that the risks we face as one island are understood in a unified and comprehensive way. It integrates information from multiple government departments, NGOs, researchers, utility providers, environmental organizations, and technical specialists. This multi-actor collaboration enriches the atlas and ensures that it reflects real conditions on the ground. The result is a tool that offers clear, accessible, and evidence-based insights into our island's exposure to flooding, storms, coastal erosion, heat, and sea level rise. For policymakers, planners, and NGOs, it provides a critical foundation for informed decision-making, whether in zoning, infrastructure planning, environmental management, community resilience projects, and of course, emergency preparedness. As we continue developing the National Climate Adaptation Framework, the Atlas will serve as a key reference, helping us prioritize actions, direct resources where they're needed most, and support long-term planning across all sectors. But, like every initiative you will hear about today, the value of the Climate Impact Atlas lies not only in the tool itself, but in how we use it, collectively, consistently, and cooperatively. In short, it speaks of the value of integration. Geospatial information systems, computer-based systems for capturing, storing, analyzing, and managing data, is a driving component of the Climate Impact Atlas. The value of such systems is its interoperability. That is, the ability it offers to exchange and make use of data. Such integration is being supported through the collaboration between finance, the cadastre, and of course, ROMI. This data will give value to MARTI, the early emergency response tool being launched later this morning, by helping to inform such things as the scope of intervention, during response, making fit for purpose, but most importantly, efficient decision-making possible. This symposium is proof that the work ahead requires all of us, ministries, NGOs, academia, community organizations, and our international partners. To all who contributed, CAS, USM, the IPDC, French and Dutch agencies, NGOs, technical experts, data providers, and community partners, thank you.
So this morning, the Prime Minister mentioned that we are one government. The Prime Minister mentioned our capacity issues and our challenges. So based on that, of course, being creative and innovative, we found a way to basically blend several projects with each other to have one outcome for St. Martin. And the 3 projects that have been blended is that of early warning systems, Office of Disaster Management, and cell broadcast. I see Hans is in the room, Bertma as well is also in the room, to the back of the room. We have these 3 projects that we blended to have one outcome, and the first project of early warning systems had as project goal to design a comprehensive early warning system for St. Martin with deliverables, a robust early warning system tailored to St. Martin's specific needs, communication protocols to disseminate timely warnings to the public. We also then ventured into an Office of Disaster Management with as project goal strengthen St. Martin's policy and regulatory framework for disaster risk management with key deliverables, disaster management framework, function book, Office of Disaster Management, and of course, a roadmap for capacity building. Cell broadcast. The system involved procurement and installation of the necessary hardware and software, plus establishment of a cell broadcast entity and cell broadcast center for government. Achievements from these 3 blended projects: Office of Disaster Management governance framework has been established. Stakeholder consultations have been completed. We will get into that later in the presentation. Messaging protocols have been developed. We will also get into that later in this presentation. And a business and action plan has been delivered. Now, one of the most critical things, if you think about Office for Disaster Management, of course, is who's going to sit in that office. And we all know the challenges we have internally with our function books. And in reviewing through this project, we realized that the function book that we had did not serve the purpose of today. So we had to go and reform and come with a new function book for Office of Disaster Management. And that also taken into consideration that we also had a robust discussion as to whether or not the Office of Disaster Management should be a department under another department, or if there should be a separate office for disaster management. These are the functions that we came up with. Of course, a Director Office of Disaster Management. As you might be aware, for the most of it, disaster management now falls under the fire department. It's actually a section within the fire department, and the staff is currently 1 person. Because that's the way the function book was designed back then. Administrative and Finance Officer, Disaster Management Specialist, Training and Capacity Building Manager, Legal and Policy Advisor, Community Engagement Liaison, Information and Communication Specialist, Public Health Specialist, Logistics and Supply Chain Officer. Of course, you tell yourself, whew, these are some big numbers. Yeah, it's reasonable, I would think, but it's still some big numbers for us. So, in discussing the continuation of this Office of Disaster Management and, of course, the implementation thereof, we now have the support of BZK, the Dutch Ministry of Interior and Kingdom Relations, that has now also made funding available for the implementation of basically the business plan that was developed now in place for the Office of Disaster Management. So thank you to BZK for always supporting us and always having our back with disaster management. And then I move on to early warning systems. So as mentioned, I would come back to certain things with regards to early warning systems. A survey was done. And the survey was a state-proof sample, basically, to determine what would be best in the area of early warning. I know we always have the cry for sirens and all these types of things. Sirens is part of early warning. However, sirens are not the only part of early warning. Another aspect in early warning that we needed to cover was basically the SOPs that needed to be in place in order for us to warn. Previously, we had sirens mainly in the coastal areas of St. Martin. The last sirens were knocked out in 2017 with Hurricane Irma. However, you need to know who's going to warn, when you're going to warn, what are you going to warn for. All of that needed to be developed prior to just saying, let's get a siren system. And in doing a survey, it turns out that actually the preferred channels for warning is, of course, your smartphone. Everyone has a phone. Radio, everyone has a radio. And social media. There's also, based on the survey that was done, clear, simplified messages. You don't want conflicting messaging in the event of a disaster. Sometimes we have one saying, I don't know, run, and then the other is saying, take your time. So we embarked on all these little adventures in the early warning project. Edward is here, so he knows about some of it. And one of the adventures was a color coding system. The French side of St. Martin has a color coding system. Sometimes they are on red and we are over here just living our best lives, as they say. So what we've done now for the past year or so is basically match, along with the French, the color coding system. So our systems are now aligned with each other. It means, more or less, that we will not have where we are locked down completely and the French are open, or vice versa. Bear in mind, the French system is still a bit different than that of the Dutch side, because the French system is automatic. If they are on orange, if orange is locked down, it's locked down either way, no matter what is taking place. However, nevertheless, for the upcoming hurricane season, which is 2026, we now have color coding that matches each other. So we are now aligned with each other in giving off signals. It was quite an effort. Green is, of course, normal, niks aan de hand, as we say in Dutch. Yellow is early vigilance. Orange, significant vigilance. Red, extreme vigilance. And the two extras that have been added for Dutch St. Martin that are not in the French system is purple and blue. Purple and blue have been added in the event of a tsunami. And I must also mention, the Netherlands has also made an envelope available to us to now get a tsunami plan in place. So, also based on that. So if you are doing warning and you have a siren system, for example, and you have not told your people what to do, where to go, your siren system doesn't serve the purpose. You have to have those governance structures and frameworks in place. Let me go to my next slide. So another thing that we developed is standardized messaging. I just did the English and Dutch here. Standardized messaging that basically will be sent to you as a warning. Ms. Eliza Jones will speak after me, and she will go further into the details of cell broadcast. However, standardized messaging gives the same message every time. Dcomm is also in the room. See Maurice here. We are fresh off of the heels of the Kingdom Crisis Week in Curacao, where we were constantly reminded that communication is basically key in the event of a disaster. So we were more than happy to let them to know that we have now standard messages. We have them in different languages as well, and we have them per hazard. So we have standard messages now for hurricane, flooding, tsunami, earthquake, and tropical cyclone. Those are the 5 hazards that we have standardized messaging for. It does not mean that we cannot give other messages or other details. However, these are the standard messages that you will be seeing now, so you will also know what to do. And I will get to that later in my presentation. Ultimately, this is where we want to be. We have quite a bit in place already. This is multi-hazard early warning systems. So we now have the governance structures in place. We now have the SOPs in place, the protocols in place, and the messages in place. We have radio, television already. We have weather radar already. Cell broadcast, Eliza will elaborate on. So eventually, it is for us to basically check all these boxes. We are also now currently looking into the membership of the WMO. Currently, that membership is through Curaçao, but of course, we want to get our own membership. And Sirens is in the planning for the future because it is multi-hazard early warning. We do have another more imminent manner in warning, which is speaker car for the moment. And now we get to the coup de grace. So you would notice that the ladies brought these 2 banners to the front because in developing all of this, we thought, but hey, we should have some sort of branding for disaster management. And of course, it would be amiss not to use one of our own local national birds, and this is Marty, the brown pelican. That is now our mascot and a logo for everything disaster management and early warning systems. So once you see Marty, you will know that it is authentic and not fake news, as we learned in Curaçao, and that it actually comes from the Office of Disaster Management.
Hey, St. Martin, meet Marty, our early warning buddy for all kinds of disasters and hazards. Marty's part of our multi-hazard early warning system. This system keeps you informed before danger strikes.
Hi friends, I'm here to alert you before tropical weather, tsunamis, or the possibility of flooding and other hazards. When you receive my alert by phone, radio, or TV, don't wait, act fast. Protect your loved ones and stay safe.
Stay alert, follow trusted government updates, and be ready. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Office of Disaster Management. Hey Marty, tell us how you help to protect us.
Easy! I help you prepare by sharing knowledge of risk, monitoring hazards, and sending timely alerts. These are the 4 pillars of safety: knowledge, monitoring, warning, and action. You'll hear my alerts on radio, TV, mobile phones, even loudspeakers across your neighborhood.
Every second counts. Know what to do. Share the information with family and neighbors and respond quickly. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Office of Disaster Management. Marty, when you send an alert, what should people do?
Don't wait! Every alert has instructions, so follow them immediately. Evacuate if told, or shelter safely if advised. Remain calm and act swiftly.
Alerts will be shared by mobile phone on SXM Gov Radio 107.9 FM and through official government social media platforms. Share the message with those around you. Alerts save lives when everyone takes swift action together. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Office of Disaster Management. Marty, how should families prepare for a disaster?
Start with a plan. Prepare an emergency kit, know your safe spot, and discuss the plan with your household. Practice it regularly so everyone knows what to do, no matter what happens.
Your kit should include water, food, medication, flashlight, and a radio, plus items for babies, pets, and important documents like passports and IDs. Add some cash too. A prepared family is a safer family. Don't wait. Plan today. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Office of Disaster Management. Hey Marty, why do we test the system?
We test it to make sure it works when we really need it. Don't ignore the message when I pop up. Stay alert. Practice saves lives.
Use test alerts as a chance to review your plan, talk with your loved ones, and practice evacuation or sheltering. Preparedness starts now, not later. Your readiness today protects tomorrow. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Office of Disaster Management.
So we have several of these short videos. We have voice for radio. Marty's voice is the same everywhere. We will also be getting a mascot. The intention is to take the mascot into the schools so that we can teach there basically on how to be prepared. And for every hazard, the 5 that I listed, we also have the visuals to go along with the 5. So you will be seeing it on social media, and then you will also hear it on the radio. It tells you what to do in preparedness. It tells you what to do in preparedness for tsunami. It tells you what to do in preparedness of a earthquake, cyclone, those types of things. It gives you that standard message. Ultimately, we will be going to the signage as well. We did the mapping. However, we're waiting on additional layer of the mapping for the posting. And then we will be going into signage as well in the next round of projects. So that's it for me, basically. Thank you.